Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 133 of the Essential Wrestling Podcast. Good evening, folks. I'm John DeConti, and we're here to take you through the week that was and preview the upcoming week of wrestling action. Powered, as always, by the Eastern Observer. You can taste the power. Okay. Here to help me along is our UK and European expert, Gary Mehaffy. Gary, how are things tonight?
Not too bad. I always feel some week I'm going to get caught on when the wee intro video plays on the guitar. I kind of find myself going, doo, doo, doo. And some weeks we're going to cut it off about 10 seconds early and see me kind of humming it. Exactly, yeah. Like Beavis and Butthead in the background here, kind of going, yeah. But,
Good stuff.
yeah, no, things are good. So we've got our first snow here of the winter at the minute. So
very, very nice. All right. Also here with us is our stateside NXT guru.
And number 4, John Smith.
John, how are you this evening?
Doing good. Just realized I forgot to put my hat on, but other than that, we're good. And my box is backwards behind me, but other than that, we're all good.
The scenery, man. I got to get the scenery right. All right. Okay. So anyway, we're going to recap for you a little bit of Raw, SmackDown, Impact, AEW, and NXT, and we'll make our picks for the upcoming week, most importantly. And our picks, of course, are brought to you by every week. Here we go. There it is. ProWrestlingPick'em.com. Play against your friends. Play against the universe. And fellas, she will like it too.
Wink.
Okay, let's jump right in with the Raw roll-ups. This is where we started the week. Raw wanting to take, the AEW roll-ups. Oh my God, that's Raw wants their title back, so they're out of the gate hot. We'll see how things worked out this week. Let's jump into New Year's Evil, which took place last week from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando. It was the new year, so we got the countdown to the new year, which, as it turned out, was an upgraded Tiffany Stratton. I believe someone on the panel had that. Mr. Smith, think about
the upgrade.
Yes, indeed.
I'm normally a big fan of upgrades, but I feel like it's perfect for her.
Yeah, her frame definitely it worked well. And she would let us know that, quote, the center of the universe is back, unquote. John Smith, as long as we've got you fired up, why don't you take us right to the big match of the evening, Braun Breaker and Grayson Waller for the NXT Championship. How'd that go?
Yeah, it was kind of, weirded out that it was the match at the end of hour 1 instead of being the main event. And we quickly found out why, because they plan on doing this again. Braun pretty much dominated the beginning of the match. Then we got a little back and forth until the second rope just detached in the middle of the match. So then they're working on that while the two still go at it. And then Grayson Waller stands on the second rope, of course, and ends up falling out of the ring and getting counted out. And later on, we get a decision from Shawn Michaels that these two are going to go at it again at Vengeance Day inside a steel cage, where nothing like this could happen again.
Yes, indeed. So we will see this match again, as John said, and that will be when they hit the road in the beginning of February. So yeah, not a great finish, and the fact that the gimmick of the match accidentally exposed itself a little early, I'm sure didn't make a lot of people around the Performance Center happy. But
what? I didn't even think of it that way. I'm sure that's what happened, but to me, it just looked like the rope, like that was all planned out. Even like the first one, I feel like if if the first one wasn't planned, then I think they did a good job covering it up because I was dumb to it.
Yeah, you absolutely could be right. It just, just a goofy finish to what was a highly anticipated match. But, we did get 12 plus minutes out of it, and we get to see it again. So maybe we wind up coming out the winners there. Later in the show, we had Sangha come out and announce that Veer Mahan was not there for the match that was supposed to take place between Indus and the Creeds. And they didn't. The Creeds were pissed off. How could you not? This match was supposed to be all about you guys getting respect, and you didn't have enough respect to show up. Well, there was another plan apparently, as Jinder Mahal attacked from behind. There was a beatdown that took place, and Jinder made sure to tell everyone that while those other guys may fight for respect, I don't. I can be as dirty as I want to be. Valentina Feroz was very upset with Sangha backstage. She asked, is this what you're really about? And he said, yes. It's about me and my brothers. I don't like the way we're being treated, and we're only out for one another. So Ivy Nile and Julius Creed go at it outside the trainer's room while Brutus is being taken care of. He's not going to be cleared for the evening, even if they wanted to have a match. So Julius wants a piece of Jinder. He goes to the GM. He gets the match. He loses the match. Yeah, he misses a shooting star press. Jinder hits the Colossus. Well, I'm sure we're going to get a replay of that tag match we were supposed to get somewhere down the line. But for now, former WWE champion Jinder Mahal is in NXT.
I like it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. He fits. He'll get some exposure there. We like that. Gary, please tell us all about the gauntlet that Pretty Deadly had to run in their attempt to get a shot at those NXT tag titles.
Well, I'd love to know who teams 2 and 3 were actually going to be, because obviously, as we put into, I think it was you from it says, we kind of had the new age rockers, or whatever we want to kind of call them, 2.0, 3.0, came out at first. Oh, my computer's decided to sort of, so there we are. And then he kind of beat this random, the Job Squad, and a New Day came out and went, no, proper teams, we're going to have it. So I come Anofi and Blade with a little bit stuff, a bit of flip dives over the side, and actually a really good bit where there was a superplex off the top, and then I think it was Malik Blade had a real big frog splash very far across the ring. And as he was going for the pin from it, Prince had kicked out, and as Anofi then rolled up Elton Prince, but Kit Wilson pushed him to reverse it with a roll up of his own, got the win, and we're on to team number 3, which is Pretty Deadly announced we're due to be Briggs and Jensen. But somebody give them a kicking backstage, and who should it be but 2/3 of Gallus returning to NXT after their quote-unquote suspension. And they came in, and in very quick time, obviously they weren't getting paid by the hour, they beat around Pretty Deadly, and Gallus pinned them. And your new number 1 contenders, obviously, to take on New Day at some point soon to kind of cut out the nonsense and the faffing about, is Gallus, who beat them pretty clean. So,
yes, indeed. I could see as you were just getting that sentence out, you could see the sides of your mouth just tick up just a little bit. Couldn't help but smile. The Gallus boys are back in the U.S. Yeah. And that brings us to our first pick of the week. We'll go right back to you, Gary. Gallus will get their they put in about 72 seconds with Pretty Deadly. They're gonna get a full workout tonight against Briggs and Jensen. Who do you see coming out of this one, Gary?
I think Gallus are going to do it again. I think they'll Briggs and Jensen will look for their own back, and there are other stories you could do with Kelly James and stuff coming out of it, but definitely Gallus are there to kind of go over strong. So.
All right, John Smith, Briggs and Jensen, Gallus tonight in the Performance Center. How do you see this one working out?
I think Briggs and Jensen find a way to pull it off. Maybe they cheat to win, but because Gallus is obviously the better team. But I think we might be leading up to like some sort of 4-way match at the pay-per-view. So I think there's going to be a lot of people that want to make a claim at that number 1 contendership, and I think this is a way to do it.
Yeah, I definitely can see that turning out to be a multi-match. That way the New Day don't have to take a pinfall to lose those belts and whatnot. But I think I'm gonna go with Gallus here, but yeah, I could see it going either way. It's gonna be entertaining. The big dumb country boys and the big Irish jawjackers. I think we're in for some heavy hitting tonight.
Scottish.
Oh yes, my bad. I stand corrected.
Just so there. Yeah.
Goodness gracious, I'm that guy.
Wait,
Yes,
is there a difference?
It's all the same.
those UK folks are all the
We
same.
all look alike. We all sound alike over here. It's like,
Oh my goodness.
I thought the only difference was your green suit and hat.
that's it. Diddle-diddle-diddle in the Lucky Charms. It's
Where's your piccolo?
like-
Speaking of folks from across the pond, the big strong boy will make his return this evening as Tyler Bate is returning to NXT and says he's here to stay. Good times. Let's see. Last week at New Year's Eve, we also had Dijak beating Tony D. And afterwards, he had some words kind of out of the ring to the announce desk where Wes Lee was seated. Of course, Wes Lee is your North American champion. And that one is already booked for Vengeance Day. We might pick it next week. I'm not sure, but we won't pick it this week. So Dijak and Wes Lee for the North American title is going on the road to Charlotte in Flair Country for Vengeance Day. This one was real short, but I could not let it go without Gary having his say. Is there a name for that horrible stretch that Charlie Dempsey put on Hank Walker? Tell us all about it, Gary.
Yeah, and I can't remember what it is. So I'm a lot of use on this one. I know obviously had him in that. I'm not going to say it's the Regal stretch because it's not the same one, but Big Hank, who did get a little bit of offense in and got a bit of stuff in, but you had Charlie Dempsey come back with a dragon screw, locked him in a submission. Hank tried to get out by getting the bottom rope, got him a bit of armbar in, but Dempsey reversed it and put him in a submission and kind of really had him bend in all sorts of awkward ways. And sorry for Big Hank, who I have a soft spot for too, but when it's my boy Charlie D, no, he went over and stretched him and beat him good.
I don't know if his papa made him hang from the jungle gym, but he must have some real long arms. I could not believe, especially Hank, he got his fingers locked in that S-lock, and oof, that did not look pleasant. Okay, in the women's division, we had Roxanne Perez backstage with Mackenzie, who said that you had the big women's battle royal coming up. She was rooting for anyone but Cora Jade, quite frankly. We also had Alba Fire backstage. She approached Sol Ruka and said, I owe you a match for the time that Isla Dawn came in and interfered. And Ruka was like, oh, no, don't worry. I understand. It's not your fault. And Alba just kind of got pissed off. She was in the zone for what would be the women's battle royal. She's like, well, do you want it or not? Oh, yeah, I want the match. So we'll get to that in just a bit, but that leads us into the 20-woman battle royal, where Cora Jade was eliminated almost immediately. Sol Ruka did her best Kofi Kingston impersonation by walking around on her hands to avoid an elimination. We got down to our final four, which were Alba Fire, Lyra Valkyria, Gigi, and JC. Valkyria eliminates Fire pretty quickly. Toxic Attraction work together to eliminate Valkyria. And then they're standing there together like they both won. Like they said before the match, we're both going to win. And so they're just standing there raising their hands. And then it starts to, creep into them like somebody's got to win here. So eventually, of course, these partners go after each other. At first, who was it? I think JC said that she'll let Gigi win. And she's just about to move out. And Gigi said, oh, no, don't. And then she kicked her in the head and they went at it. Pretty quickly, they're both out on the ring apron. They're fighting across a turnbuckle. And I got to give credit where credit's due because I call them the botch masters all the time. They timed it perfectly. They both hit each other. I'm sure you can manipulate it with video. They did take a little time to show a replay, but they both hit the ground just about perfectly in sync. They were both declared the winner because they hit simultaneously. And Gee, if you wanted to complain about something, we're getting a triple threat at Vengeance Day, but it's really a 2-on-1 handicap match. You got TG, you got JC, you got Roxy. It's going to be for the women's title. It's booked. But this week, in the meantime, coming out of that 20-woman battle royal and from the conversation beforehand, is that match Alba Fire promised to Sol Ruka. John Smith, how do you see this one going down?
I mean, Alba Fire's, I think, too high up on the card for Sol Ruka to be winning this match. So I think that it'll be like a nice, 12-minute, respect at the end, handshake kind of thing. But Alba Fire wins it.
Now, I don't necessarily watch what the heck's it called, Level Up or whatever. But have either of you seen Sol Ruka's new finisher?
No.
Oh, so you know that spot that happens in almost every match where one person gets fired into a corner and then kind of reverse leapfrogs as the other person comes in?
Yes.
She goes up like that. She kind of kicks her legs up and then flips underneath and catches the person coming in a cutter. When the timing is done right, it looks amazing. But it's one of those weird moves where, like, well, don't just never follow her into a corner and you won't get hit with the finisher. But like I said, when it's done right, it really looks good. Yeah. Anywho, Gary, how do you see Alba Fire and Sol Ruka going tonight?
Yeah, I'm the same. I would agree with John. It's like I could see that if they wanted to kind of have Isla Dawn do something and she cost Alba Fire, but I do think it'll be the same where they'll maybe get about 8-10 minutes and kind of a nice match and they come out a bit respectful after it. So I would say Alba Fire.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you gents. Alba Fire should be taking this one, but hopefully it will be used to kind of show us what Sol Ruka can do. Staying in the women's division, and I think we're going to get another smile out of Gary, we had a vignette for Stevie Turner. She's headed stateside. She's working a social media gimmick where she's always two levels above and 2 steps ahead. Anywho, it's always great to see the gals from UK come on over, so we're all looking forward to that, I'm sure. Let's see. We had another segment from NXT Anonymous that we were just referring to last week as the Twitter handle or whatever. Last week it was a female voice when she was peeking into the trainer's room on Katana and Caden. This week it was a male voice. I don't know if they switched on the fly or it's meant to confuse us, but this was odd. But it does make sense in the fact that this time this person was peeking into the male dressing room. Not that anyone was in any state of disrobing, but they caught Scripps putting a note in Oro Mensa's bag, which I think Gary was telling us last week he saw in a digital exclusive. Scripps was without his mask, but he was facing the opposite direction, so it didn't much matter. No idea where they're going with this, but again, NXT Anonymous has now been female and male, depending on the week. Who knows if it's a faction? Who knows if they're just screwing with us? We'll see going forward.
Maybe it's maximum male models. I like that.
There's another video up at the new one right now. I don't know what it says. I'm not going to put the volume up. Yeah. It's Chase U at the background. Duke Hudson speaking to somebody backstage. So there's something. Right.
Maybe we'll see that play out tonight. Yeah. And then wrapping up NXT, we had Carmelo Hayes. He was writing in a journal at Apollo's favorite diner when he's talking about, becoming the NXT champ and, all the hard work he's put in. Trick Williams shows up in a lucha mask just to be annoying, but he did impart some words of wisdom when he told Melo to stop writing about it and just speak it into existence. Well, tonight he gets to take a step in that direction, although it's a tag match. Any win is a good win and moves you up the chain. So tonight we're going to pick Melo and Trick against Axiom and Apollo Crews. 3 incredible performers and Trick. Gary, how do you see this one working out?
I don't know. This is one of these ones for me where I go, I'd love to say Axiom and like they're going to win, but Carmelo Hayes and Trick, I'm going to say they're going to win it just to kind of kickstart the feud or whatever. So.
All righty. John Smith, what's your say?
Yeah, I guess that makes more sense that way, and then Apollo can finally get his retribution at the pay-per-view eventually. It'll all build up to that. So yeah, I'll go with Carmelo too.
Okay. I'm gonna go with the who is it on here? So I think it's you, John Smith, who says like when it's a toss up, I'm gonna go with who's just the better performers. And when you once again, I don't mean to beat up on the guy, but when you look at those 4 performers, the only one who should count the lights in that match is Trick Williams. So give me Axum and Apollo. All right, that's the end of NXT. We're all working towards Wednesday, which as it stands right now is Breaker and Grayson Waller in a steel cage, Roxy versus Gigi versus JC for the women's title, Wesley versus Dijak, and presumably we're going to get that tag title match, but who knows? We don't know for sure just yet. That one's not booked. Let's move along to SmackDown. There was some good stuff. There was multiple good stuffs on this card. But I think the thing that we were all chomping at the bit for all week was Gunther and Braun Strowman. Gary, how did that one go down?
This genuinely could be the best Braun Strowman match I've ever seen, and I do mean that. It's like he's had one or two okay matches, but this was absolutely like a really lovely match that I loved, and I'm going to put that down to Gunther just being brilliant. It was 2 big boys just going at it. Gunther. The story of it obviously was working over the arm and the stuff that he was doing for the arm, but you did have Strowman who knocked him out of the ring and went for the running shoulder tackle around it. Gunther, as I say, put him in the double wrist lock, was going for the arm because he hit it onto the steel steps to try and do that. Strowman did try to lift him to break his way out, but collapsed because he couldn't, because his hand and his arm was so sore. They kind of traded chops. And Imperium did get involved behind the referee's back, but on the outside, they were exchanging chops again. Strowman had a clothesline, missed the strike in the corner where he hurt his shoulder. Gunther hit him with a shotgun drop kick, caught him with a clothesline, a big line, and a splash, but kicked out. But when they got to the top of the top turnbuckle, he got his arm smashed in the ring post by Gunther, and then actually with a big powerbomb, which surprised me that was a finish, but a real clean finish where he just powerbombed him and pinned him for the 3 count.
Yes, indeed.
You can tell Braun Strowman's never taken a powerbomb before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one not complaint, but the one the finish wasn't as great as the rest of the match, but yeah, I mean it's big man business, so sometimes that happens. So afterwards, Gunther was backstage with Kayla. He's conquered Braun, his biggest challenge. His next plans are to enter and win the Royal Rumble. And quite frankly, I wouldn't put it past him. Let's see. We had Rey Mysterio in the ring. He mentioned how Dom ruined Christmas. But to get back on track, he plans to enter and win the Rumble. Hugh Carey and Gross, who came out to interrupt, talked trash about Rey being a bad dad until Rey could take it no more and took a swing at him. And that didn't work out so well because he went to sleep in the cross jacket. And they will fight in 2 weeks. So we'll pick that one next week. Bray Wyatt came to the ring, said sometimes we forget who we are, but it only takes a small shove to remind us to revel in who we are. He is the eater of worlds. He is Uncle Howdy. He is him. And LA Knight should run. And for the 3rd week in a row, we got the same exact Cody Rhodes video package. John Smith, comment?
Very fast forwardable.
Oh,
I didn't watch it. Like I saw the very beginning just because I didn't get my thumb to this clicker yet. And it looked like they were setting it up to be like the old Triple H comeback video from like 2002.
Yeah.
When he tore his quad, and it just made me sick. Sick to my stomach.
Very good, sir. Then we had there we go.
Cody's trash, everyone. Cody is trash.
And don't you forget it.
I won't let him, don't worry.
And then we had Liv Morgan backstage. Emma and Maxine Dupree told her that her idea to enter the Women's Royal Rumble at number 1 is probably the worst idea they'd ever heard. And then Raquel Rodriguez kind of, tried to cut it in between. She said, nah, I don't think it's the worst idea I've ever heard. But, someone your size probably wants to enter as late as possible. Liv Morgan didn't like that comment, and she posed the age-old question to Raquel Rodriguez. What did the 5 fingers say to the face?
Slap! Mother.
So, as you could imagine, that led to a fight later that evening where Liv Morgan did her level best, but in the end, she took too long setting Raquel up on a table on the outside. Raquel just crawled right back in, pulled her off the top buckle into the Chingona bomb. 1, 2, 3, sub 5 minutes. Raquel gets the victory there. Also, unfortunately, unmentionable, really, Tegan Nox beat Xia Li in a sub 3 minute match with the Shiniest Wizard. I feel terrible for her. Yeah, exactly.
It makes no sense. Xia Li's got such a good look, and she's, I think, way better than Tegan Nox.
Yeah, do something with either of them, though.
Yeah.
Sonya Deville, pardon me, was in Adam Pearce's office demanding another shot at Charlotte, and he said, I can't do it. You're going to have to go win. She said, well, am I going to have to go win the Rumble? And he went, yeah, basically. She left saying, no, I will find a way to make that rematch happen. Well, during the commercial break, she found a way at least to push it towards that when she randomly attacked Charlotte in the parking garage. Charlotte was in an odd pink number that almost looked like the Always Sunny in Philadelphia Green Man outfit, only it was pink. It had something fancy in the front where it showed a little skin, but from behind, it literally just looked like she was in a unitard. Anywho, they brawled through the commercial break. They brawled at the as we went back to live. Refs and agents had to pull them apart. Look for them to maybe fight this week. Who knows? Maybe at Rumble, which would be a shame to have Sonya out of the Rumble. But, I guess the champ's got to do some work too. So maybe she will have a singles match on that card. Then the rest of the night was mostly around the big match, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Sami was at the Bloodline dressing room earlier in the day. Paul Heyman meets him at the door. He said, hey, let's let me inside. We got to go talk strategy. I got to talk to the Usos and Solo, and what are we going to do? Paul Heyman convinced him that it was Roman Reigns' idea that to truly show respect for Sami Zayn, they had to let him do it on his own. So no one else was there. He was on his own. Fast forward, later in the evening, we get to the match. John Smith had this one go down.
Well, Sami was on his own for quite a while, at least. The match started with Kevin Owens with the advantage, and quickly Sami turned that around and with a hop over the top rope and to the outside, and then brought him back in and brainbustered him on the other side on the ring apron. We go to commercial and we come back, and Sami's been dominating the whole commercial break, and my box just fell. And so Kevin Owens gets, takes the advantage, hits a nice frog splash. We get them about 10 minutes in. They start doing the whole punching each other in the face at the same time thing. Sami hits one with his half and half suplex, but then gets clothesline for his effort right after it. So then they're both down again. A couple minutes later, they're on their knees doing the whole punching thing again. We got it 2 times. That's how you know how serious the match is. And when they broke apart, Sami hit that half and half suplex again. Kevin Owens went for the clothesline again, but got half and half yet again, which made it look like Sami was setting up for the haluva kick. They're on opposite corners, and then you start hearing the crowd boo, and then you know what's coming, and then here comes the bloodline, and Sami does not look very happy because he had this one in the bag in his mind. The Usos first just stomping mud holes into Kevin Owens, and Solo Sikoa hits him with his thumb, the Samoan spike. He gets set him up on the table, and I don't know what it looked like Solo was like running on air because there's not usually anything to run on in that timekeeper's area, I think. And I feel like him running on a table wouldn't be that sturdy. So I don't know what the hell he was running on, but he ran full speed and splashed the crap out of Kevin Owens on the table. And that's how we walked the air with everybody throwing up the one, including Sammy, who was still visibly irritated, but went along with the whole display.
That's it.
He didn't get involved once on the beatdown.
True. Yes, good point. So that's how the show went off the air. But the one important segment that we left out didn't involve any actual wrestling, but we got to see how the show went off the air last week. And what we didn't see after it went off the air was the Viking Raiders attacking Sheamus and Drew McIntyre in the ring. We got a Viking Raiders vignette where they said pain and suffering await Sheamus and McIntyre. And later we had Sheamus and McIntyre in Adam Pearce's office, slapping the crap out of him, but in that friendly kind of UK way, I suppose. And basically saying they weren't on the same page entirely. Drew wanted the Viking Raiders, and he wanted them immediately. Sheamus wanted another shot at the Usos. Pierce said they're not going to get either tonight, but there is going to be a tournament for a shot at the SmackDown Tag Team titles. It's going to start this week on Friday, and in the opening round, we're going to pick it. Sheamus and Drew McIntyre will get that shot at the Viking Raiders. Gary, how do you see this one going down?
I would assume that now what are we going for, the Banger Bros? I would assume that they will take it, that it's being kind of set up for them and the Usos down the line. So we'll go for Drew and Sheamus.
All right, John Smith, how do you see this one working out?
This is Drew and Sheamus versus the Usos, you said?
No, the Viking.
Well,
the
Viking Raiders.
Yes.
With all the Viking Raider hype, I got to go with them. I got to say maybe Valhalla gets involved or, something. Obviously Drew and Sheamus are the better team, but, I don't see why they would have the Viking Raiders lose.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even see this one ending cleanly. Like, maybe Sheamus and I think I'm going to go with Sheamus and Drew moving on. But maybe it's because the Viking Raiders just say the hell with it and start beating them with their shields or something like that. Because you almost can't hang a loss on them with all the kind of stop-starts they've had coming back. And, they dismantled the New Day, and you thought that was perhaps leading to a title match at some point, and they just haven't gotten it yet. But I don't see how you hang a loss on them. So I don't think it's going to end clean. So that's going to do it for SmackDown, and unfortunately, that's going to do it for our time with our friend from across the way, Gary Mehaffy. Gary, thank you, as always, for hanging out with us for as long as you did. We're sorry to keep you up this late, but we love having you with us.
No, it's been a pleasure. And to be honest, I think I've been very brave tonight. What with Jenny announcing the retirement during the week, it's been so.
I can't believe you kept it together, man.
I've been brave. I've been a brave little soldier. No, have a good rest of the show. I'll go and see if we've been snowed in so I can get a day off school.
Yes, good luck on that tomorrow. Take care, buddy.
Later, gents.
All righty.
And fingers crossed that we see Ginny, NXT Europe General Manager Ginny.
Ooh, now that would be something.
I think she would be a fun general manager, to be honest with you.
And it would be fun every week seeing Gary be pissed off about it too.
Yeah.
As much as we love him. All
Speak
right.
for yourself. Speak for yourself.
How dare you, sir? All right, let's jump back to last night on Monday Night Raw, where we had a video package about Little Miss Bliss, which of course ended with the Uncle Howdy segment where he asks her, "Do you feel in control?" Bianca Belair came out later. She called out Miss Bliss, who came out and talked about winning the Rumble because she wanted another shot at Bianca. Bianca doesn't want to wait. she offered her a shot right at the Rumble. And, of course, Bliss accepted. Bianca then left the ring, met her in the aisle, and they just started going at it. They spilled into the crowd. And just about the time that Bianca had her up for a KOD and she was going to put her through a couple of chairs, she looked down one of those entryways, and it's filled with smoke, and there was a dancing Uncle Howdy. That, kind of confused her enough that Bliss escaped, and she was able to DDT Bianca on the concrete, and then she noticed Howdy, and we went to commercial, and once again, didn't talk about it anymore. Also in the women's division, now that match is booked for the Royal Rumble. We're going to get Bianca. We're going to get Alexa Bliss. It's going to be for the Raw Women's Championship at the Rumble. Sticking in the women's division, we saw Mia Yim defeat Io Sky because smartly she brought Candice LeRae with her to neutralize Dakota Kai. Yim with Eat Defeat, and afterwards Dakota attacked. Candice helped make the save and clear the ring. Sub 5-minute match, no big deal. Moving along, this one was really a letdown. Not that I'm a huge fan of either of them, but Becky Lynch can't, she's now the man again. She's the man of the people. She came through the audience to the ring. She called out Bayley. She got Bayley. And as many times as myself and other people of my generation have said, the scripted promos are terrible. You should just let these people go like Stone Cold and The Rock used to do and let them create. If what we saw last night was letting these two go, we may never see it again because this promo was painful and painfully long. But in the end, what we got to was Becky challenging Bayley this coming week to face her inside of a steel cage. So, John Smith, who do you see coming out of that one?
I know Bayley just beat her, but I'm going to go with Bayley again because she's got damage control on her side, and Becky doesn't have any friends.
Yep, and for that same reason, I think I've got to go with Bayley again. And plus, Bayley hasn't done quite enough winning since coming back. Like, you form this heel faction, and that usually means they go on a tear. She never got the championship. The girls got the tag titles, but, they tend to, once again, forget the whole tag division. So we haven't seen them do a whole lot with them. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think Bayley will take this with her extra help from the outside. Backstage, Elias is talking to Byron Saxton right outside of Adam Pearce's office. Elias is trying to get a spot in the Rumble. MVP comes out and says, don't bother. The winner of the Rumble's already been decided. Elias, I don't know what he's thinking, but he thinks MVP's talking about himself. So that when MVP offers him a match against the 2023 Rumble winner, Elias says, yeah, I'm ready for a tune-up. Well, I don't know that it was so much as a tune-up as it was a lump-up because Omos, who, of course, is who MVP was talking about, took care of Elias in about 2.5 minutes with a choke bomb. Later on in the evening, actually right before that segment, we had the Street Profits taking on Cedric and Shelton. There was a little bit of a botch in this match. It ended with a crucifix roll-up, and the Street Profits got the win. Then backstage, we saw Mustafa Ali approach Dolph Ziggler. Ziggler was getting ready for his main event match that was a 6-way elimination match. It was Miz, Lashley, Ziggler, Rollins, Corbin, and Finn Balor. Ziggler was trying to get ready. Mustafa Ali, once again, he's always got a case of the red ass. You're getting another opportunity, just hand it to you. Dolph said, I don't have time for you right now. So Mustafa Ali dropped him and said, you got time for me now? Nothing more came out of that, at least for the evening, because fast forwarding to the main event, Ziggy had some work to do. John Smith, how did that number one contender elimination match work out?
It was kind of a cluster bleep at first, with the 6 of them. There was Lashley versus Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz versus Seth Rollins versus Baron Corbin versus Finn Balor. Miz got knocked out pretty quickly because he had the figure 4 on Dolph, Dolph reversed it where Miz was facing down. Seth comes up and gives him a curb stomp for his efforts and just pins him right there. Then he, who was it? Lashley. I'm sorry, I forgot the order.
Don't worry.
Crap. Give me 1 second. Crap. I have this already too. All right, yeah. So then a pedigree to Ziggler after he hit a move, he just stepped right into a pedigree for the 1, 2, 3. So we got 2 eliminations from Seth right off the bat. Not too long after that, we get MVP and Omos coming out. So they're watching, but they're looking like they're kind of rooting for Lashley or something. I don't really know. We had Theory at the commentating table at the same time, so he's bound to get involved at some point. Yeah. Eventually, we get another curb stomp to Finn Balor after he hits a move, so Seth eliminates him, and then Lashley almost right away hits a spear on Corbin to eliminate him. So now we're down to Seth and Lashley. Yeah. Lashley's getting a breather on the ropes and gets a belt to the face for his efforts from the United States champion. So it looks like he's down for the count. Meanwhile, Omos chokeslams Theory through the announcer table. Theory tried to high five him, and Omos is like, "What are you talking about? I don't like you." Boom, you're gone. Then Rollins ends up losing. How did he get? Oh yeah, because MVP hopped up on the ropes, or maybe Omos did, or maybe Theory did. I forget, but he kicked
MVP. You're right.
MVP. Yeah, so it was MVP. So he gets kicked off the apron, and then turns around into a spear, and we get the 1, 2, 3, and the way it should have happened. Lashley comes out on top as the number 1 contender.
Absolutely, and they're wasting no time with this one. We're gonna pick it because it's going down this week. Austin Theory, your United States champion, versus Bobby freaking Lashley. John Smith, how's this one go down?
It's Raw 30, so they're hyping it up. But I went to Raw 25, and that was like one of the worst live experiences of my entire life. But that's also because they tried to do it from 2 venues at the same time. And I feel worse for the people that were at the Manhattan Center. Right. Because, I'd say 2/3 of the show was done at the Barclays Center where I was. So they were all staring at a screen for 2/3 of the show over at the Manhattan Center. But I almost fell asleep when they had nothing going on and we just had to watch the TVs. My son fell asleep. My buddy who I was with fell asleep, and I almost fell asleep during that.
Yeah, that was not a good night, especially for the people in that for either building, but certainly not for the people in the Manhattan Center who saw one match, and then they had the big DX NWO Too Sweet moment, and that was kind of it.
Yeah, exactly. So my whole point was it's supposed to be a big show.
Sure.
So what are they going to do? Is it going to be comebacks or whatever? I mean, do we see Cody make his TV comeback? Because they already announced he's going to be in the Rumble, so it's not going to be a big surprise when he comes out there. So he might show up. So what else did they do? I mean, the title change of some sort makes sense. I mean, I think they meant to have that belt on Theory or Seth for a long time, and then they called an audible putting it on Theory after they decided to take the briefcase off of him.
Right.
So this could be a whole roundabout way to get the belt back on Seth. Maybe we get Seth versus Lashley at WrestleMania or something, and I'm going to go with Lashley taking the belt.
Okay. Yeah, I can absolutely see that. Yeah, you're going to want to pop the crowd, and nothing does that quite like a title change, especially with a big monster going over a very hateable heel. So, I'm going to agree with you. Bobby Lashley gets that U.S. title back, even if he doesn't wind up carrying it for that long. I think that'll, maybe not necessarily send him home happy, but, it'll definitely be a moment for the babyface fans in the crowd. Last night we also had Akira Tozawa interrupting Adam Pearce to say that he wants a spot in the Rumble, and Pearce told him, "Well, I can't just give you a spot in the Rumble. In fact, I can give you a match, but I'm not even sure if you win the match, you're going to earn a spot in the Rumble. So go out there and impress me." Well, unfortunately, his opponent was Bronson Reed. John Smith, how did that one end?
Tsunami!
Yes, indeed. And as John said, we also got once again. I just like John, I started fast forward as soon as I saw Cody again. I'm like, really, the same damn vignette as the last couple, and all of a sudden it was roads to the Rumble. So I got to go back and say, what are they saying here? I'm like, really? They're just giving it away right there. Like, hey, I'm coming back at the Rumble.
You know what, though? I like this because they have him plastered in the middle, and they're hyping him up, so he's not going to win it. They never hype up. I mean, the only time I can remember them hyping up the winner for so long was like Shawn Michaels when he went from number one.
Yeah. That 95 Rumble. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Like they always, whoever's like, on the chase for like Daniel Bryan. Then one year, everybody booed the crap out of him when he got thrown out because everybody thought he was going to be going to the WrestleMania. And
yeah, so good. Yeah, I guess the more exposure we get to him, the more it says that he won't be the winner. So I guess we all kind of win then. Certainly in the Smith household.
Yeah.
Okay, going back to the start of the show, once again, we had the Usos and Solo Sikoa in the ring. They were there to remind KO that he can't cross the Tribal Chief and then get away with it. And that next week at Raw 30, every generation of the Bloodline will be there for the Bloodline acknowledgement ceremony. So I guess we're going to get to see Afa and Sika, so that'll be really cool. The Usos will then successfully defend the tag titles against the Judgment Day, at least according to them, which brought the Judgment Day out to remind us that they run Raw, and they're going to run right through the Usos. And then Tom ran his mouth, which included, he actually called out Solo amongst the dumbest things you could do. Solo got in his face. Rhea got between them in a hilarious moment. And then Dom sucker punched Solo. It led to a brawl. And just about the time we were about to get Solo and Rhea again, when they were the only two left in the ring as the brawl was going on all around them, Mustafa Ali had to ruin things by attacking Solo because he did have the next upcoming match with him. And, well, it started in the break, which, God, I love that every time. Went less than 5.5 minutes before Solo would, when Ali would miss a 450 splash and Solo would deliver the Samoan spike for the win. Once again, KO got involved at the end, and Pierce and agents had to pull everyone apart. And eventually the Bloodline would retreat. Backstage, the Judgment Day was with Kathy Kelly. When the Alphas interrupted, Gable said they snuck by them last week, but they won't do it again. Judgment Day and the Alphas, tag team action. They went at it again. John Smith, was Gable right?
Well, I shushed you before because I thought that you were leading into this match. I guess I got my timing off.
It's okay. I always appreciate a good shush.
All right, so we start the match with Gable and Dom, right? But Gable goes for the shot right away, but it was a fake, and Dom just face plants when he tries to sprawl it. And then Gable's kind of like, chasing him around the ring, and he just tags out. And Gable did his wrestling thing for a little while to Priest, but eventually Priest was too much for him and took over for a while. We go to commercial break, and somehow Dom's back in the ring, but he's getting his arm broken over the top rope with an arm bar. So every time we look at Dom, he's like a little bitch. He's just getting hurt. Eventually, we get to where Dom hurts his leg in some way. I forget how it was. I think it was an ankle lock, actually. Yeah, he was selling the ankle lock. But Priest comes in and hits his sit-down choke slam while the ref's distracted. And Dom crawls over and gets the pin. So Dom gets to be the one that gets the victory with his hurt ankle, and after performing maybe like 3 offensive maneuvers.
Dom is just such a bad actor. He crawled into that cover you were describing, and then remembered, oh, I'm supposed to be selling my ankle. So he reaches back to his ankle, and he like made the cover like with his forehead.
Yeah, he like almost uncovered him like so he could sell his ankle. I love the whole character though, the way it's progressing. I mean, he needs to polish up his skills of acting, but like I love the whole like he's a wuss, but he thinks he's hard and he's acting like a cholo and all that. And
it's almost a way to lean into how horrible he is and make fun of it instead of it just distracting from every match. So
it distances him from his father.
Yes.
You don't really think of Ray anymore when you look at him. You just think, oh, like this guy's a moron.
Well, that moron has
a
shot.
Rhea dynamic too. The Rhea Ripley dynamic
that's big.
Yeah.
Well, that moron we were speaking of and his partner Damian Priest, at least that's the way they're billing it at the moment. They got the whole Freebird thing going on there. You don't know if Balor's going to tag in, but as it stands right now, Judgment Day has a shot at the Raw Tag Team titles on that previously mentioned Raw 30 coming up this week against the Usos. John Smith, who leaves with those red straps, the Raw Tag Team titles?
I think they take it. I think the Judgment Day take it because they're the belts that they've had that the Usos have had for less time. Right. So they can still claim their streak with the SmackDown championships.
Sure.
Not to say that they're not going to lose those after this tournament or whatever, but I think if they're going to lose one set of belts, it's definitely going to be this one. So if I'm going this way with it.
Yeah, I think you are 100% correct. The minute they talked about this as just being for the Raw titles, I was like, oh, finally, a sensible way to split them up. And I think, they'll have the acknowledgement ceremony, then this will be the main event, and then the Usos will, have the hangdog look as they walk back up the aisle, and the whole bloodline is there to meet them like, what have you done? And, we'll start the unraveling, if you will, of the bloodline. Not to say that Roman's going to lose anytime soon, but, just a little take him down a couple pegs. That does it for Raw. We talked about next week we will have the Bloodline Acknowledgement Ceremony, and some legends will be in the house. So far, we know we're going to see Ric Flair, HBK, The Undertaker, Road Dogg, Ron Simmons, Teddy Long, Jerry Lawler, Kurt Angle, the Bella Twins, and for some reason, X-Pac. Let's jump over to Impact, who had their big pay-per-view this past week, and of course it was back-to-back with their weekly Access show. Just a quick hit on the Access show because not a lot happened that didn't have something to do with the pay-per-view. The Design, they formerly, of course, Violent by Design, they got to shave Sami Callihan's head. It was a little tense. We weren't sure what was going to happen. And eventually Sami just said, screw it, give me the clippers. And he shaved his head very badly, but basically saying, I'm committing to this. Diener would say at the end of it, this is the death of the Death Machine and the birth of Callahan. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. The only other thing of note to come out of that show was that it opened with Alexander and Bully Ray going back and forth kind of via a Zoom meeting because they couldn't have a face-to-face without killing each other. But more importantly, that was overseen by Josh Matthews because they're reminding us and selling the fact that Scott D'Amore went through a table the week before. He's going to be out of commission for a little while. In fact, later, Gail Kim was backstage and she was asked by Gia Miller if she was going to be taking over Scott's duties. And she said no, but Anthem has found just the right person. We'll find out who that is at Hard to Kill. Moving forward to Hard to Kill, the show opened, the pay-per-view opened with a 10-bell salute to Don West. That was a nice moment. We had Joe Hendry in a match against Moose for the Digital Media Championship. It started off by Hendry just slapping Moose across the face, and the ref rang the bell for some reason while Hendry still had the belt around his waist. We got to a point where Moose, eventually, obviously, the belt goes to the timekeeper's table. Moose goes and grabs the belt, brings it into the ring, right in front of the ref, makes no effort to hide it. So, of course, the ref takes it right away and starts to march it back to the timekeeper's table. That's when Moose made sure the ref's back was turned and punted Joe Hendry in the Jimmy and got the 1, 2, 3. And we thought we had a new digital media championship until Santino Marella apparently got the rights to his name back, came out, said he is the new director of authority, and called Moose a cheating son of a gun. He restarted the match. Hendry hit the standing ovation and retained the digital media championship. Match 2 of the countdown show was the X Division Championship, which I don't know why you would ever put the X Division Championship on the countdown, because the X Division Championship rules.
Maybe they wanted to get people to buy the pay-per-view. Maybe people who were flipping channels and came across it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought the X Division Scramble was for. I thought it was basically, give us some X Division action on the countdown, and people will say like, oh, well, if this is what it's like, not for the title, let's buy it for the title. But so be it. Trey Miguel, of course, same old trickery. He actually went under the ring, got out the rattle cans of spray paint, made sure to walk in with one like right in his hand so the referee would take it. And as soon as the referee's back was turned to get rid of the can, he pulled the second can out of his trunks. Torus got him up for Destination Hellhole. Torus got blinded again with the spray paint. Trey hit the lightning spiral, which I didn't think there was any chance he was going to be able to do. Pardon me, was going to be able to do with Torus, but Torus being very agile as well, he helped him out there. Lightning spiral, 1, 2, 3, still your X Division champ, Trey Miguel. Coming out of the X Division Scramble, we have a match this week where Trey will once again defend the X Division title against 75-year-old Mike Jackson. This is the guy who does the Undertaker old school, walks the rope and goes all the way around the ring, all 4 sides. That's like his gimmick. They always remind us that like 40 years ago on Raw, or almost 40 years ago on Raw, not on Raw, on Nitro, they made a point of saying, oh, there's a 40-year-old man who's going to fight for, I think he had a shot at the TV title or something like that. And here he is 35 plus years later, still fighting. We're going to pick it as much as it makes us giggle. Trey Miguel versus Mike Jackson. John Smith, who wins this one? Trey or the old buck?
Hee. No shot. Trey Miguel all day.
Yeah,
I honestly have Mike Jackson win by disqualification because he's just going to get beat up and spray painted just to prove us wrong.
Yeah, probably. Oh my goodness! All right, I've done enough talking. John Smith, take us through the pay-per-view opening Full Metal Mayhem for the Impact World Championship.
Unreal that they started the pay-per-view with this. Bully came out first, and then once he got to the ring, he left the ring, or maybe didn't even go into the ring and hid off stage, and the announcers were selling that, where'd he go? He just left. It's like, no, he's hiding because he's going to attack Josh Alexander, which is exactly what he did, with a chain around his hand from behind while Josh Alexander was on the ramp. Josh basically right away bleeding immediately. He gets beat up for quite a while before they end up in the ring and the match can officially start. Apparently, I was wrong last week. It's not a ladder match where you could also pin or submit, which is what I read on the internet.
Right.
You got to believe everything you read on the internet, though.
Exactly.
So it's not my fault, guys.
Who could blame you? It was on the internet.
So basically, this was just a hardcore match or a no DQ match that they just slap a name on. But that being said, that's my only criticism of the match is giving it a name like that when it's just normal no DQ rules, because it was a very good match. Once Josh Alexander got the upper hand, he he knocked the cheese grater out of Bully Ray's hand and started getting him with that. He hit him with it once, then he started grating his face with it. He then goes and retrieves the patented black sack from under the ring. I wonder what might be in there. They might have to hang up a bunch of posters later. A whole bag of thumbtacks gets dumped in in the middle. It was a little bit off center towards the upper left corner of the ring, but normally they set it off to the side so they got a little bit of room to work with.
Exactly.
I was like, damn. So that Bully sees that and runs, gets out of the ring. He's on the ramp. He gets caught by Josh, who sets him up on a table, and he goes to climb one of those tall ladders, one of those Jeff Hardy ladders.
Yeah.
And Bully Ray gets up and pushes the ladder backwards, and Josh Alexander is just at the right rung where he lands exactly on those thumbtacks in the middle of the ring. Couple more moves involving the thumbtacks. So you can see one stuck in the back of Alexander's head at one point. Bully Ray took a slam or two on it himself. Then you get his minions coming out, the ones that duped him a few weeks ago, Hotch and Skyler.
Yep.
The ones that were playing possum to get Josh Alexander to come out. So they come out and they start getting into it with they start a 3-on-1 beatdown with Josh Alexander. They strap him or zip tie him to the ropes again. Then Tommy Dreamer comes out, and Bully Ray goes to hit him with a trash can, but then nope, he turns around and hands it to Tommy Dreamer because Tommy Dreamer's on his side. Tommy Dreamer turns to Josh. Josh is screaming in his face. I can't believe you. I don't know. You can't really hear what he said. Maybe you can, but I didn't rewind it to actually try to listen.
Yeah.
But Tommy then very deliberately and slowly turns around and hits Bully in the head. And he was playing Bully the whole time. Bully then gives him a spear through a table for his efforts. And he goes to start, and he's beating on Josh in the corner on the ropes with the lid to the trash can. I think it was the lid to the trash can, yeah. And then all of a sudden, the wife of Josh Alexander, I forget her name, comes out, and she's screaming at Bully. She wasn't even supposed to be there. Josh Alexander told her not to be there, but of course she's there. She gets in the ring, gets in between them. And then Bully asks her to beg, and then he asks for her wedding ring, this and that. And it all leads up to her giving the big old China right up the goalposts. And she just happens to have some shears on her to cut Josh Alexander free. Of course. She saw it happening, but she had to run to Home Depot first. That's why it took her so long to get out there.
Makes sense.
You eventually get a slam through the table for Bully, and he kicks out, which you were not expecting.
No.
Everybody thought it was over at that point because he had just taken so much, and then he gets flipped over, ankle lock, maybe 10 seconds tops. He's tapping out, and still in probably the most hardcore match he's ever had. Very good match.
Yeah, as you said, leading up to it, it was basically their way of letting us know, Josh is a technician, but look, he can do it all. We've seen so much out. We've seen the longest tag team run of all time in Impact history. Now we've seen the longest world title run. We've seen him, go with other technicians for an hour, both TJP and Mike Bailey, and now we saw him get hardcore. I mean, there's got to be a push for him to be amongst the best wrestlers on the planet right now.
He's definitely an Impact Hall of Famer already.
Absolutely, yeah. And he still is your Impact World Champion. Later in the evening, we had Eddie Edwards defeating Jonathan Gresham, and I don't understand why they would do that. It's not like Eddie ever really takes a knockdown with the loss, and Gresham just signed a contract, but it didn't really matter. The whole thing was just for us to have the lights out moment at the end of the match where Eddie was celebrating by himself, and PCO reappeared. and God love Impact for their long-term storytelling. We last saw PCO buried in the Vegas desert, and when the lights came back on, the first thing he does is spit out a mouthful of sand, literally.
I love it.
He beats the hell out of Eddie. He choke slams him. We'll see where that's going. Obviously, Eddie's wife has told him to put the past in the past. Well, he can't because it just won't die and it keeps finding him. Moving along, we had that four-way knockouts #1 contender match. Deanna, Masha, Taylor Wilde, or the new Wild Witch, whatever we're calling her, and Killer Kelly. This one got fun at the end, where Deanna was in the killer clutch, and we weren't sure if she was going to tap out. So Masha picked up Taylor Wilde and dropped her with the snowplow onto Deanna and Killer Kelly to break up the submission and cover Taylor Wilde for the win. So Masha is your new #1 contender. But coming out of that match this week, we will get Killer Kelly versus Taylor Wilde. John Smith, who wins this one?
I'm going to go with Killer Kelly because she still hasn't been beaten. Yes, she lost that match, but she wasn't the one that took the fall. Right. So I'm going with Killer Kelly.
Yeah, I think Taylor Wilde got a what the hell are you doing roll up of Masha to give Masha her, only her second loss. The only other ones, or maybe it's her third loss, but the only other ones are to Jordan. So, Taylor Wilde gets a roll up win on Masha. I think she's good for a little while. I agree with you. Killer Kelly will probably get the win here. Okay. Later on in the evening, we had Raven join Tom Hannafin and Matthew Raywalt at the announce desk, or Tom and Jerry, as he referred to them. Meanwhile, they went backstage to Gia Miller. He was there to watch the violence because we had that Falls Count Anywhere in Atlanta match. He was there to watch some violence because that's what Raven is into. And as they went backstage, Gia Miller was interviewing Rich Swann, who was about to come out for the match. Steve Macklin didn't want to wait for a bell. He just jumped Swann backstage. They fought out to the parking lot. They almost got hit by a car coming out of the parking deck. They fought their way back into the building, into the ring, around the ring, and eventually, this could not have been pleasant. Macklin wins with a KIA, which is his double underhook DDT a la Mankind. On apparently this room that they were filming in Atlanta, when you get to the level where the ring is, the exits are down a flight of stairs, or I guess on this side of the ring there was a handicap ramp, and those ramps always have that heavy crap on it for traction. He got dropped with a DDT on that ramp, which there was space on the side of it, and Swann almost fell in the crack. It was an awkward and awful ending, and it could not have been pleasant even in fake wrestling terms. But Steve Macklin gets the 1, 2, 3. Now, if you're Steve Macklin, the whole setup for that match was, I've been beating world champions. He's now beaten Swann, former world champion, Moose, Sami Callihan, James Storm when he made his little, comeback earlier this year. He's beaten Eddie Edwards. He's beaten Rhino. He's beaten Chris Sabin and Jay White in the same match. Triple threat, of course, so he didn't actually pin White. And he even beat Ring of Honor former champion PCO. He's done nothing but beat champions this year. So this week, coming out of a match where he beat another world champion in Rich Swann, he gets Dirty Dango. John Smith, who wins between Steve Macklin this week and Dirty Dango?
Definitely not. Steve Macklin. I think Steve Macklin's eventually going to be your next champion.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're setting up right here because, I agree with you. Macklin is going to, unfortunately, beat the holy hell out of Dango. But also coming out of this match, apparently this week, I'm sure they'll set it up in the opening segment or whatever, there's going to be a #1 contender elimination match between Eddie Edwards, Rhino, Chris Sabin, Moose, Sami Callihan, and Rich Swann, the guy who just lost. So, who do we think is going to win this one, John Smith? Once again, that's Rich Swann, Sami Callihan, Moose, Chris Sabin, Eddie Edwards, and Rhino. It is a 6-pack number one contender elimination match
For the world title, I'm assuming.
for the number one contendership too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, that's a cluster bleep and a half. It's not gonna be Swan. It's not gonna be Callahan. I'm gonna go with Moose, I guess.
Moose.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Yeah, I mean, Edwards is going to be busy with PCO. Rhino's still doing a tag thing. Saban's doing a tag thing. It's between like Moose, Callahan, and Swan. You know, I'll say it goes to Swan so that Macklin can throw another fit and say, "I've beaten the number one contender." Maybe he gets into a three-way for the world title, or maybe he just goes after Swan again to try and take the number one contendership. I don't know. Obviously, like you said, I think we're moving towards Macklin as your next big contender.
Yeah, that Rich Swan thing makes sense, though.
Yeah. So earlier on in the card, we had a another elimination, four-way elimination this time for the Impact Tag Team Championship. It was the Motor City Machine Guns defending against the major players, Heath and Rhino, the most recent former champs, and Ace Austin and Chris Bay, fresh off their return from a very good outing at the World Junior Tag Tournament in New Japan. John Smith, tell us how this one went down.
Well, this is one of those lame situations where only two men are legal in the ring at a time in a four-way match. So you got, well, not at the beginning here because they all just needed to get their double team moves in before the match started. So we went a few minutes before the bell even rang on this one. So Rhino ends up getting poked in the eye pretty early in the match by Cardona or Myers, yeah, and then Cardona rolls him up off of that. Cha-ching, an AEW roll-up. And Rhino and Heath are eliminated first, unfortunately. I think that was my pick last week. Then we get an elimination. Oh, the major players get eliminated next by Bay. He covered Myers after Bay hit the Art of Finesse, assisted by Ace Austin. Then we're down to the champs versus the Bullet Club, which you'd think the Bullet Club comes out on top in this situation. But it's the American Bullet Club and it's the Impact Bullet Club. So the Motor City Machine Guns, I guess this comeback of theirs, it's I guess 2 years in the making now. It's not really a comeback anymore. They're just the guys now in the tag team division again, why live in obscurity over in Jacksonville when you can actually be at the top of the division over in where are they? Where do they film typically? Ohio or something?
Yeah, for a long time they were in the Nashville area. All right.
Nashville?
I think it was Nashville.
Okay. Yeah, so we got a retention by the champs on this one.
Yes, and speaking of people who didn't want to languish in obscurity in Jacksonville, Frankie Kazarian came to the ring to let us know that he had a chance to re-sign with AEW, and we read in the last couple of days on the internet he even had some really good talks with WWE, but he decided to come home. He is re-signed and returning to Impact Wrestling on what he called a long-term deal. So that brings us to... what are we talking about here? Oh, yes, the main event, which was... All right, so I said last week that I thought Deanna was going to win the number one contendership because I thought she was going to be the one to retire Mickey. So earlier in the show, Masha wins. No disrespect to Masha, but I figure she's too young to be the one to eventually retire Mickey. So when she wins the number one contendership, I'm like, oh, Jordan's taking this. Then Mickey James is backstage chatting with Tara, and they're having a tearful kind of goodbye in the dressing room. Raven comes in because that's where Mickey made her debut as part of Raven's flock. And he says, I was here at the beginning, and if this is the end, I wanted to be here again. They come out. Mickey James, who I did not realize had some Native American heritage, she's brought to the ring by a drum and dance circle. And I'm going, oh, she's definitely done. Jordan comes out. She's wearing a jacket. And remember, this was Mickey's last rodeo. The back of her jacket says, "Last stop." I'm going, oh my God, you got to be kidding me now. Like, if this was FanDuel and I could make, in-game bets, I'm betting the house on Jordan at this point. Well, I'd have lost the house because Mickey James sent Jordan charge into the corner. Mickey James got out of the way. She went right between the buckles and all, she's too short to actually reach, but she reached out and slapped the pole to make it sound like she hit the ring post. Mickey hits a tornado DDT coming out of it, and your new, once again, Knockouts champion is Mickey frickin' James. The last rodeo rolls on, or maybe she's not calling it that anymore, but she is your Knockouts champion.
So does this mean that she doesn't retire now if she loses? Like, it was, I either win the belt or I'm retiring. Right. So she won the belt. Does that mean she's not retiring if she loses now?
Who knows? Yeah, this is Impact. They can that might have been the way we think about it, and they could change on the fly. I'm sure we'll find out a lot more this Thursday. But speaking of this Thursday, I guess there was some mutual respect there because I imagine it's going to play out in front of us early on in the show. We're going to get a 3-on-3 mixed tag trios match where Jordan and Mickey are going to team together with Frankie Kazarian to take on Tasha and Savannah and Bully Ray. John Smith, who takes this 3-on-3 intergender affair?
I don't know. I gotta go with Mickey James's team on this one. Just because she just won. Well, you hang a loss on her right away.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're 100% right. She just won. Jordan is your, very lovable ex-champ, and Kaz just came back to the company. Yeah, I think the good gals.
Unless it's all about a Jordan Grace heel turn. Because I don't think we've ever seen a heel Jordan Grace, have we?
She broke in with Scott Steiner, so I'm guessing she was part of a heel faction back then, but I wasn't watching, so I don't know. But yeah, certainly recently we have not had.
It's like a Big E situation.
Yeah.
Big E broke in as a heel, like sidekick, and then once he got going, he's always been a face ever since.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with the baby faces in this one, but like you said, they could do anything with this. And
I'm switching to a Jordan Grace heel turn. I don't know if it's a switch or not. I don't know if like who wins the match or whatever, but maybe Jordan turns on her in mid match and she gets pinned because of it, or it just happens after. But I got Jordan turning heel.
Mark it 1 hour and 17 minutes. If it happens next week, we will call it out right here, folks.
Word.
All right, that brings us to this is so weird because we're going to go back to the kickoff match number 1, which you would think is totally insignificant, but it leads to what I presume will be the main event of this week's Impact. In that kickoff match number 1, or countdown as they call it, that was your 6-way X Division scramble. You had former Allen Angels, he's just going by Angels now. You had Red Shoes Jr. there, Yuya Uemura, 75-year-old Mike Jackson, Delirious, and Mike Bailey and Kushida. Mike Bailey looked like he was ready to take the win here. He had knocked somebody down right in front of the corner. He had climbed. It looked like he was going to hit Ultima Weapon when Kenny King showed up, knocked him off the top buckle, basically taking him out of the match. Kushida moments later would hit just a crazy. He was on the top buckle with Angels, and they came off in what looked like it was going to be a Spanish fly. But by the time they hit the ground, Kushida had transitioned to the armbar. He got the tap. He won the X Division scramble. Putting all of that aside, I'm sure Kushida will have another match this week, although he's got a match in another company coming up as well. But this week, what it looked like was going to be the winner there, Mike Bailey, he's finally going to get that match with Kenny King. They're calling it a pit fight. They're taking down the ropes. They're taping up their hands. You can only win by knockout or submission. John Smith, Speedball, Kenny King, pit fight. Who wins it?
Gotta go, my man, Fat Sack Mike Bailey here. He's the future of Impact Wrestling, and This is his first step on his way to the main event.
I completely agree. I think Ballbag takes it. I'm going to go with. We haven't seen his submission game, so I'm going to assume maybe he does one of those triple spinning, looping kicks and knocks out Kenny King.
Maybe he has to use the flamingo. Oh no, it's a pit fight. Never mind.
Right.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Okay, so that will do it for Impact. They've got No Surrender and Impact Plus, one of their little mini specials, coming up February 24th from Vegas. The next time they're on pay-per-view will be Rebellion. Will be moving to a Sunday because with this Impact Plus coming up in February, No Surrender, they're still doing the stupid Friday night thing. But next time they're on pay-per-view, they're back in the normal wrestling pay-per-view sweet spot of Sunday. That is April the 16th, and it's from Ontario, Canada. Toronto will host a big Impact pay-per-view.
You gotta love a Sunday pay-per-view. You gotta bring back Sunday pay-per-views. It's when they're supposed to happen. People go out, they do things on Friday and Saturday nights. They're home getting ready for the week on Sundays. So it's prime time pay-per-view watching. You've conditioned us for years.
Exactly.
For years. It's like, okay, a day of football, still you're watching the pay-per-view at the end of the night. Yep. And then obviously otherwise you're building up to that pay-per-view. You're even watching the pre-show once the network existed. Now all of a sudden it's like, what is their purpose of putting on a Saturday show? Is it better for their wrestlers' schedules? Like,
I understood why they dabbled in it last year because I guess, what was it? Was it January 1st fell on a Saturday last year? So they had and there wasn't going to be college football. So they were like, all right, we'll take that spot. There's a Saturday night where everyone expected to be sitting around a TV watching something. We'll fill that gap. But you broke it down perfectly. You've conditioned us to Sundays, and now nobody's doing them on Sundays anymore. What the hell are you doing to us? So yes, hopefully this is this.
We were getting Saudi Arabia on Thursdays now. Like, when does the madness end?
Exactly. All right, end of the rant from both of us there, but good points made. Absolutely. Moving on to AEW. Last week they were in beautiful Los Angeles, California. And the week kicked off on Dynamite with the first segment, Hangman Adam Page and Jon Moxley. John Smith, tell us all about it.
Well, this is a long time in the making, apparently. But I guess Jon Moxley needs some time off because he actually laid down for once. It was weird. And we got, the match was a little back and forth at the beginning. Mox right off the bat, but then quickly turned around by Adam Page. And Mox dominated for a while. Page dominated for a while. It was very 50-50, like, we got to make sure that we both look good kind of match. Page went for the buckshot at one point. It was ducked and turned into the what have you by Moxley. The
paradigm shift.
Paradigm shift, yes. But he kicks out, so Moxley goes right into trying to bulldog choke him and beating him in the face, and nothing could keep Page down because eventually he hit the buckshot lariat for the 1-2-3.
Yes, and not unlike what happened a little over a month ago when Hangman took a bad landing and legitimately had to go to the hospital. Mox was kind of selling it at the end there, like he was maybe a little loopy because he took the big lariat. So, as John said, we suspect this was a way of writing John off for a little while to give him the vacation that he was due in September before he had to save their asses by becoming world champion again. Expect not to see him for a little bit, but this week we will see Hangman sit down and speak, or maybe it's in the ring, but he will be speaking with Renee, who happens to be Mrs. Mox, so that's always a little awkward when she's interviewing one of his blood rivals, but we're going to get Renee talking to Hangman this week. Big news last week, or, well, maybe not really big, because it was Adam Cole, baby, who announced his return. He's back. He went through some scary stuff last year. He had had a terrible concussion. He had a shoulder injury. He had a head injury. He spent a lot of time not being able to leave the house, not be around the bright sunshine. But apparently he's back. He's at 100%, and he promises he will reach the top of the mountain in AEW. We had some goofiness, of course, from the Acclaimed. They told us on Dynamite that they were getting their star on the Walk of Fame while they were there. So on Rampage, they set them up with a little like cement block, like as if people put their hands in cement and then move it to the Walk of Fame, which doesn't happen, obviously. But they, instead of taping something outdoor, I guess, they wanted to do it in the arena. The Guns, the young Guns there, the Guns, his kids, the ass boys, for Christ's sake, they interrupted the whole thing and said they deserved it more. And the Acclaimed said, yeah, you're right, go ahead. They prepared to put their hands into the cement. The Acclaimed pants them, which caused them, of course, to turn around and cover their naughty bits. And, ooh, goodness, they pushed them into it. So, of course, what wound up making the imprint? Their asses in the cement. Ha ha, laughs all around.
What are the odds? They call them the ass boys.
Who could have seen that coming?
Dude, sometimes this stuff just writes itself.
They're telling stories over there.
That's like the one story they're telling, and it's about asses and
asses and scissors. Oh, God. We got another promo from Powerhouse Hobbs. The Book of Hobbs basically says he's a very angry man. Get this guy back in the ring already. He's a big monster. Let's see him do big monster things, please. Swerve and his mogul affiliates were backstage with Renee. They said they will be the most violent clique in 2023, and we still don't have a name for the big goof with the tattoos all over his face. On Rampage, we had a very interesting match. The Kings of the Black Throne took on Eddie Kingston and Ortiz. Smith, did you see this one?
It's the one I didn't get a chance to watch.
Okay, yeah, no big deal. We'll break it down for you. They had been going back and forth. Malachi Black always speaks in riddles. So the last couple of times that he had been on, first he made Ortiz think that Eddie was going to turn on him. Then he made Eddie think that Ortiz was going to turn on them. So Eddie and Ortiz went into this a little not sure of one another. They were having a real good match for about the first 9 minutes. And then Buddy Matthews and Julia Hart came out. Matthews tried to slide in with a chair, but Kingston took it away from him. And then Julia Hart came up from behind Eddie Kingston and kind of like tapped him on the shoulder. He thinks it's somebody, one of the other guys that he's fighting. He turns around ready to swing it. It's Julia Hart standing there. So Ortiz rips the chair away from his own guy to try and save the little lady. Malachi Black hits the Black Mass. Kingston gets pinned for the win. Things are weird between Ortiz and Kingston. Meanwhile, the House of Black rolls along. On Dynamite, we had Jungle Hook taking care of Big Bill and Lee Moriarty. Moriarty would get caught in the snare trap for the submission loss. Jade Cargill would officially kick Red Velvet out of the baddies. She's not worried about she's not worried about Red Velvet so much as she's looking forward to her very soon upcoming 50th win. Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker beat Saraya and Toni Storm when Hikaru Shida came down to ringside and slid the kendo stick in, but Baker picked it up and sent one of the good gals and cracked Toni across the back. Then Hayter hit that ripcord lariat that she calls Haterade, and she got the 1-2-3 on Toni. In the main event, we had a very, very bloody Ruby Soho, along with her partner Willow Nightingale, defeating Tay Mello and Anna Jay in a street fight. Destination Unknown into a bunch of tacks on Tay Mello for the 1-2-3. Coming out of that one, out of those two that I just mentioned, we're going to get Willow from that bloody street fight. We're going to get Toni Storm, who was a loser in that previous Dynamite match that I described. John Smith, Willow Nightingale, Toni Storm on Dynamite. Who wins?
You gotta go with my girl Toni.
Yeah. They're doing a little bit of a build here with Willow. She's a very likable baby face, but I cannot see Toni Storm taking a loss to her. Getting back to it, the Elite and Death Triangle finally ended their best of 7 series. Honestly, every match was really good, but there is such a thing as too much. Pizza, sex, things like that. Maybe not so much. Trios matches where someone almost dies with every other move. Maybe 7 out of 9 weeks in a row. A little too much. Well, surprise, surprise. The Elite got it done. They are the new Trios champions, taking back those belts that were quite literally made for them. Omega, this one got crazy. Again, all these matches were crazy. Matt Jackson got taken out by Penta hitting a Fear Factor onto a ladder that was bridged between the top rope and the middle of a 5-foot or a 10-foot ladder in the middle of the ring. He took a Fear Factor on the ladder. Matt rolls out. Phoenix then got taken out with a one-winged angel from the bridge ladder onto the canvas. That was another 5-foot fall about. Pac comes off the top buckle looking for the Black Arrow, but Omega gets the knees up. Now all 3 members are pretty much done for. Omega makes the climb. He pulls down the belts. The Elite are your new champions. Coming out of that match, the Young Bucks. Remember them? They used to just be a tag team. They're going back to tag team action and taking on, this should really be a good match, Top Flight. It's going to be on Dynamite. John Smith, the Young Bucks versus Top Flight. Who takes this one?
That's the old saying that was started by me, I guess. Who's booking it? They're winning it. Bucks are booking it. Bucks are winning it.
Yeah. It would really be a pisser here if, we've got these titles we got the 6-man titles. Let's throw a bone to these guys and give them a tag team win, these young fellas.
Nah.
But I don't think it'll happen either. So the Young Bucks will take this one.
So why should we?
Exactly. This is our show. Anyway, the Jericho Appreciation.
Literally what they sound like, too. This is our show. Like Mickey Mouse. Like old school Mickey Mouse.
I didn't realize I was doing a Mickey Mouse impersonation because it wasn't that good, but I'm glad you knew where I was headed. The Jericho Appreciation Appreciation Society came to the ring on Dynamite after a hell of a week where they invaded Pro Wrestling Guerrilla's Battle of Los Angeles, and they took care of Ricky Starks by powerbombing him through a table. They were patting each other on the back, and it was cheers all around. When Starks and Action Andretti came out, and Starks challenged Hager, who was the man who powerbombed him through a table, to face him on Dynamite. John Smith, Ricky Starks, Jake Hager in his stupid purple hat. Who wins?
Well, the way they've been pushing Ricky Starks and the way that they have no problem having Jake Hager lay down, I'm going to go with Ricky Starks on this one.
I have to concur on that. Also coming out of this little back and forth, Daniel Garcia of the Jericho Appreciation Society will be taking on the other member of the good guys there, Action Andretti. This one's not going to be till Rampage, but Daniel Garcia, Action Andretti, John Smith, who takes that one?
That was a little harder to call because, they've been pushing Action Andretti, but they've also just been building up Daniel Garcia for a while to be like this real tough guy. So I think they're going to hang a loss on Action Andretti here. I'll go with Garcia.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet. Daniel Garcia, is an up-and-coming star, and Andretti got his star maker moment by beating Chris Jericho. So I think he can sustain a loss, especially since I'm sure it won't be clean. Someone else from the Jericho Appreciation side will eventually, inevitably get involved. So I am going to agree with you and say that Garcia takes the win here. On Dynamite, JFK came to the ring, interrupting the introductions for Bryan Danielson and Konosuke Takeshita. He got over with some cheap heat. It was LA, so Ken Jeong was in the audience. Freddie Prinze Jr. was in the audience. There was some ask your mom references. MJF, the king of cheap heat, but he's damn good at it. So we let that one go. Bryan Danielson came out. MJF literally sprinted up the ramp away from him. So he's totally going for the chicken bleep heel roll here. Did you get a chance to watch Danielson and Takeshita? No, that was
Definitely not. Yeah,
no.
I didn't even get a chance to watch that other one. So
Yeah, so that one was that was an entertaining match that for no reason that's what it was. I put a mark next to this because this is one I was going to tell you. Watch it if you have time. It doesn't matter about the show, but I think you'll enjoy it. Danielson, his new gimmick now is he puts on a great match. The other person gets plenty of their time to shine, which Takeshita did. He is really going to be a stud. And then Danielson hits the psycho knee, but doesn't get the 3 count. Gets pissed off, grabs the wrists, stomps some dude in the face until he's unconscious, then rolls him over and puts him in a submission, even though he's already unconscious, and gets a submission win. And that's what happened for like the 3rd time in a row here. He did it to Takeshita. He got the win. But remember, he's got to win. He's got to wrestle on every show and win on every show between now and February, I think it was the 8th, in order to get his title match with MJF, which we all know is coming. For the pay-per-view Revolution. This week on Dynamite, he is facing former Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito. John Smith, Bryan Danielson, Bandito. Who wins it?
I would literally bet the house on Bryan Danielson. There's no possible way Bandito beats. No possible way.
He can bring Roosh to ringside with him. He can bring whoever their butler is there, Jeeves or Jose, whatever his name is. Yeah, Danielson will win this one. Okay, we had the setup on Dynamite where Orange Cassidy, Danhausen, and actor Paul Walter Hauser, you may know from Cobra Kai. What is his goofy nickname on there? I don't remember. Anyway, he's the guy who drives around in Johnny Lawrence's car that got repossessed. There was a weird energy between Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends because Cassidy, of course, fought Trent last week. Stingray, that's his name. Stingray is the actor's name on Cobra Kai if you watch that show. Anyway, fast forwarding to Rampage, he was out there to say how he is a lifelong wrestling fan. And he just won a Golden Globe. So, he had the Golden Globe with him. Out comes Danhausen for absolutely no reason. Out comes Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. They interrupt. Sanjay Dutt gets in Hauser's face. Hauser slaps him. Lethal punches Hauser. Jarrett blasts him with a guitar. This was a guy from Hollywood who was a big wrestling fan and went, let me take some bumps, guys. Do whatever you want to me. Well, Jeff Jarrett blasted him with a guitar. Made a bunch of toothpicks, and so who was it? Jay Lethal left with his Golden Globe award. Anyway, Best Friends came out to kind of make the save. Fast forward this week, I believe it is on. Yes, it is definitely on Dynamite. Orange Cassidy will once again be defending the All Atlantic Championship, and this time it is against Jay Lethal. John Smith, who wins this one?
With more buildup, I'd say it's possible that Jay Lethal wins this, but I don't think that's the case here. I'm going to go with Orange Cassidy retaining here.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, at some point in time, they got to do something with Jay Lethal. I mean, obviously he's a good hand. He puts on great matches, but yeah, I really want to say this is going to be where he does it, but Orange Cassidy's just it's too good, like kind of goofy entertaining that everyone who walks up to him, he basically offers them a title shot. So that way they're getting, they're putting a title match on TV every week, sometimes twice a week. So yeah, I'm going to say Orange Cassidy holds on to this one here. Fast forwarding to the main event. No, it was not the main event. It jerked the curtain on Rampage. It was Darby Allin defeating Juice Robinson, who is now in AEW, coming over from Japan. At least it was somewhat believable that Darby could beat Juice Robinson. Afterwards, Sting came down to the ring to celebrate with Darby, and Darby's right back at it because he has this open challenge this week at what I presume will be the main event of Dynamite unless something kind of happens on the fly. Of the matches that's booked, I would imagine the TNT title would main event. Guess who they're welcoming to? Well, they're not going to be in Jacksonville, but to the AEW family, at least for one night. The time splitter Kushida jumping over from Impact, at least for one day, to take on Darby Allin for the TNT Championship, John Smith. How do you see that one working out?
Oh, man, I would love to see that. But didn't he just win an X Division #1 contendership match?
I don't think it was a #1 contendership. It was just an X Division scramble. But, yeah, it does look like he's kind of in Impact.
Yeah, well, or maybe he just came over to, like, do a quick tour. He's going to do a match here, there, and everywhere, and then just go back. I don't know what his life is. I don't follow him like that. But, no, he's not taking the title.
No, Darby just won it. He's not taking it, unfortunately. I got stuff falling down all over here. Yeah, I agree with you. I believe Darby Allin will retain, and that will, in all likelihood, do it for AEW for the week. And that will do it for our show, ladies and gents. Let me get to the outro music. And let me lower it just a bit. And let's take a look at the AEW roll-up. Where are they? That was the start of the show, yes. Oh, they put them down here, where at the end of the show, where they should be. Okay. So for the week, we had Elton Prince rolling up in Mehaffy, Cardona on Rhino, and Dawkins on Cedric Alexander. Raw with a commanding lead. Well, actually, not a commanding lead, because it's just in terms of Raw numbers, they're one up on Impact. But as I stated last week or the week before, Impact's just a 2-hour show. So they're really leading the class here.
Yeah, they did just do a pay-per-view though, so let's give them that.
Yes. Let's take a look at the standings after we had some picks to make last week, so we can point out that our buddy Gary, I should have done this while he was on camera, of course, he went perfect at New Year's Evil. He's still trailing in the NXT standings, but he did get himself a Hennig, and it looks like I am the only one left not to score one as we head towards WrestleMania, which will end our season. On the Impact picks that we made, the big winner there with 48 points is John Smith. Take a bow, sir. Oh. And with all that being said, Brian Roy is still annoyingly way out in front in first place.
I'm still bringing up the rear.
I don't think any of us really has a shot unless he falls asleep on WrestleMania and doesn't make his picks there. So it doesn't, and we're all just fighting for second place. Okay, that was the wrong roll-ups. And John Smith, are you ready to run with this?
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy, take it away.
The primetime rundown is back in its usual day and time as Joey Jarzenka, Ian Schreier, and Mike Zabo return to Friday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with everything you need to know in the sports world. Do you have an interest in becoming a sports reporter? Would you want to be asking high-profile coaches and players questions in person? Are you a college student looking to break into the sports media industry and looking to write about your favorite team? The Eastern Observer is looking for interested candidates to join the family for college credit. Look no further. Aspiring writers, social media specialists, content creators, etc. can inquire by emailing eosports3@gmail.com. We are looking forward to having you join the Eastern Observer family. The Black Cats NYC are the official band of the Eastern Observer. Check out their album Free Cake on any of these music providers: YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Deezer. Anywhere you get your music, you get the Black Cats NYC's album Free Cake. Their latest album, guys, out now. Play loud. As always, EWP is sponsored by Pro Wrestling Pick'em, the internet leader in sports entertainment, Pick'em Pool. Join us in the EWP public pool to play against us or create a private pool with you and your friends. ProWrestlingPick'em.com. Play against your friends. Play against the universe. And guys, she'll like it too. Join us back here next week for episode number 134 at 5 p.m. on all your viewing options. And while you're here now watching and listening, please make sure you like this episode and subscribe to the Eastern Observer to make sure you get updates on all of our shows and news articles. It's all about the algorithm.
Yes, indeed. And once again, we made it through an entire show where I barely used a single graphic. So thanks for all your hard work, Al, for putting them on there. I'm an idiot.
Now let's see if he notices. If he actually comes back and watches the whole thing, then you can feel bad, all right?
That's a good point, sir. All right, I guess that's pretty much going to do it for us. The season is over in terms of our picks against the Primetime Rundown. We did not do very well. We lost that, so there's no point in harping on that. Is there anything that we forgot, John Smith?
I don't believe so. No, I got nothing for you. I'm looking forward to NXT tonight as usual because I'm a big NXT head. I got to start watching Level Up more. That's actually, I mean, as much as I, have to catch up on podcast day, like I still feel like I should be watching Level Up because it's a lot of people that will eventually be on NXT who will eventually be in WWE anyway. So, I feel like it's just more NXT because NXT is just all beginners and trying things out. So I feel like it's just an extra hour NXT. I gotta start watching it.
There you go. All right, that's gonna do it for us, folks, this week. Alexa Bliss, we love you. Mary Steve, always in our heart. And ladies and gents out there, thank you for joining us. And as always, we wish you the best in all your future endeavors. Gotta get Bundy in there.
Yeah.